So I'm going to be doing similar to my colleagues Jim and Tim. I'll be doing two presentations in one. That's because you didn't accept my other presentation proposal. So to provide a little bit of a context, I'm the co-leader of a sustainability team in Wisconsin, and we're pretty well resourced in community resource development. We have about 55 county educators out of the 72 counties of the state, 70 specialists, depending on how they're defined. And so in order to facilitate content development and distribution, we have teams that both specialists and county educators work on, and they're voluntary. So you can choose to become a member of a team, or you can choose to not. So our sustainability team has been around for about 8 years, and every year we decide as a group what kind of projects we're going to take on. And this one kind of fell into our laps a little bit. And before the stimulus program came along, in Wisconsin we had some political gridlock back then over energy. And the idea was the governor was trying to push energy independence, energy efficiency, energy's economic development. Legislature really didn't want anything of that. So he kind of did an end run and put some money into the state energy office to create a vehicle by which we can underwrite municipalities to take leadership. And fortunately, I was a graduate student who got to work on that project and happened to find my way into extension. So we're talking about this project, how it pertains to our team. So a little bit of the presentation will be quick and dirty on what happened with this program, some of the successes, and then how Extension and our sustainability team supported it. And I don't know why I put this in here since you guys all have this already, but so 2006, our governor created this goal of 25 by 25, which is 25% for our energy from renewable sources by 2025. Kind of put some money into the energy office, created this Office of Energy Independence, which was a kind of shadow energy office, if you will. And we've launched the program in 2008. Here was the mission. Again, I have like way too many slides, so I'm going to fly through some of these. Here were some of the goals, and it was a voluntary agreement. So imagine that from a state, giving some money voluntarily to municipalities. And these were plan grants initially. So we helped communities by providing some plan grants and some structure into how to go about creating an energy plan at the municipal level. And as a caveat, this was for municipal operations. So we weren't at this point concerned with what was going on in the private sector or homes so much. We were just trying to affect change from what we had direct control over. The idea was to create a government lead by example. So we'd have a group of municipalities spread out throughout the state. Some of the communities were picked because of where they were in the state, not necessarily because they had the best application, to be honest. And so to make sure we had those communities which we already knew were going to be a part that were environmental leaders, but also some of those surprising candidates that were in maybe parts of the state which you wouldn't expect. And then the governor mobilized all the state agencies, and they kind of sliced up the state, and they said, okay, Department of Natural Resources here, Commerce here, Ag there, and we're going to compete to see who can get the most communities involved. So that created very interesting staff meetings. And the purpose is to create a community of practice. So to increase literacy and capacity at the community level to take on sustainability, in particular energy, and to achieve tangible results that we can measure, and to create local support because there wasn't a whole lot of support at the state legislature. And then it eventually happened to be that we leveraged a lot of federal resources. During the middle of the first round of these grants, the stimulus program happened at the federal level, and all of a sudden it was raining money, almost literally. And so people were getting reassigned from their other government duties to essentially being grant management. And fortunately, a lot of the funds, or a fair amount of the funds, were being able to be leveraged in a program that we had just created. So here's some of the benefits for being involved. This is lifted from an EPA document that's cited there. And this was we used as a template for the energy planning cycle. And as you can see, as extension educators, we wear a lot of hats. A lot of these hats are represented up here. So we were involved with capacity building. Some of our educators wrote or facilitated the writing of grants, pulling teams together at the local level. a lot of the teams were multiple jurisdictions, multiple municipalities collaborating, because I have a town hall, that's all I have. I have a garage in the town hall. So, you know, we put together some municipalities that didn't have a whole lot of resources, and so that we could actually get some economies of scale. Visioning, Extension, we're involved in a lot of visioning, helping develop the baseline, some of the technical assistance. But we required communities initially pass a resolution supporting the governor's goal in order to even apply. So in 2009 and 10, we had about 140 municipalities, pretty good spread across the state. This is a little bit dated map yet already, but where they were. This is where the grantees ended up being from. Again, spread out throughout the state. There's a cluster in the southwest there because they're smaller communities, and they were actually collaborating together. So we also had some of these collaborations elsewhere. They were just noted as one dot. Here were some of our successes. We had 142 communities pass support resolutions. First round, we had $400,000 in planning grants. 10 were awarded. Second round, we had $500,000. The first round, the $400,000 was from the state. The second round, the $500,000 was some of the stimulus funds that were going to be for block grants, and we kind of pulled it aside and did planning grants instead. And we had hundreds of meetings across the state that were facilitated predominantly by Extension. We're planning a 2014 plan grant, actually. Fortunately, the State Energy Office has been able to cobble together a little bit of funding to maybe do another round. Some of our successes, $9.5 million was available to non-entitlement communities in Wisconsin for efficiency upgrades at municipal level. 60% were captured by 21 communities that had received plan grants because they had a plan in place. Like, here we go, here's our plan. And there was no prep. Some of the communities I worked with, I had one community, City of Whitewater, which was doing an energy plan, many others that were not involved in planning. We essentially had a plan on the shelf, no dust yet, and we could go out and get some grant money. These other communities had no idea. I don't know what kind of boiler I have, how old my lights are, don't even know when this building was built. So, you know, they were caught flat-footed in terms of trying to take advantage of federal opportunities. And so what was our role in Extension? So it's great that we had good timing in terms of stimulus, but it's going beyond just planning or doing some visioning sessions or facilitating, pulling together meetings, technical assistance. It's trying to get towards this transformational education model, and that we're creating capacity in these communities for sustained change over time. And that's where a lot of our evaluation is directed towards. It's reasonably easy to measure how much energy they saved or how many dollars they captured, et cetera. But it's noting how these communities are behaving differently now. So, you know, they become more literate in terms of the impact of energy, and they're looking for entrepreneurial ways now to continue their programs. Now there's really no state or federal funding for these, and they're looking at other things. So after they've gotten through most of the reasonable energy projects, they're starting to look around and say, hey, you know, we could do something with water over here, or, you know, how are our businesses using energy? So that's, I think, where the biggest benefits are, and that's really Extension's sweet spot. And we had this role, we had in Wisconsin Extension educators in most of the counties that received plan grants. And for the 21 communities that were doing planning, 19 of them had an Extension educator who was involved either intimately or peripherally. So that's a big benefit when we have the state putting money in, and then the federal government putting money into a program, and we have these folks that are already trained up on the ground on how to do facilitation and where to find university resources, how to evaluate successes and things like this. The sustainability team, not all the members not all the Extension educators who were involved on the ground were on the sustainability team and still aren't. They're just kind of called into service. For those of us who are on the team, who've been in the team for a while, we've been producing content and trying to provide overall assistance to this program. So although this was driven by a state agency, they were looking around for content and boots on the ground because, you know, geez, they had between 2 years, $1 million in block grants, and they had half a staff person to try to deal with this statewide. So Extension really was the staffing on the ground for this program for the most part. And we had the legitimacy, the relationship with these communities already. So when a community identified this as an opportunity, they say, gee, well, how do we get it? And then what do we do once we've got it? And Extension was there to answer the call. This is the website, the uwsuper.edu. That's our team website. It includes over 8 or 10 years of content we've produced, and also many of your states probably have content that's linked on there that we've come across, found, liked, vetted, etc. I can kind of blow through these findings. Some of the evaluation. Extension specialists provide an extra layer of value. We have specialists like Tim who are energy specialists that we could call upon. They didn't have to receive extra funding for these folks. So, we had these people at the ready. We didn't have to build up this program over time. We had these resources to align. And right now, there's a lot of the federal stimulus grant funded programs are being evaluated by third-party contractors. So, we'll learn better exactly how much energy was saved, dollars saved, things like that. We'll let the contractors take care of figuring that out, and then we'll take credit. So here's my contact information. We have 2 other team members here, and Jim and Tim in the room. So I think we have about a couple minutes for questions too. If I'm allowed to take questions right now, Rosalind, I don't see her in the room, so yeah, questions. Yeah.
And now that the money tree seems a little bare, what do you recommend for somebody who wants to imitate what you're doing?
I think if you look at some of the reports that were done annually, they were done by the Energy Center